I'm Matthew McCabe. Welcome to Miracle Voices. Each episode, we will be delving into stories of forgiveness, healing, and transformation that have come about from integrating the principles of the book, A Course in Miracles. If you want to learn more about A Course in Miracles, visit www.acim.org. If you'd like to visit the Miracle Voices site, please go to www.miraclevoices.org. If you feel inspired to make a love offering, please visit us at miraclevoices.org/donate. All donations go to support the work of the Foundation for Inner Peace, the publisher of A Course in Miracles. Now here's your program. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Miracle Voices. This is your co-host, Matt McCabe. I'm here with my co-host, Tam Morgan. Tam, how are you doing today?
As usual, glad to be here. Always a highlight of my week.
Oh, good.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
Good. Yay.
First day of spring. There's lots to be thankful for. Isn't that right?
No. First day of spring was 2 days ago.
Oh, it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
It was officially on the 19th. And I think it's because, usually it's between the 20th and the 21st, but I think it's this year because of leap year.
Oh, right.
Somehow.
Okay.
But there you have it. But anyway, happy spring.
Happy spring, and happy spring to our guest, Lisa Fair, who's also on with us. Lisa, welcome to Miracle Voices.
Hi, good morning. Happy spring.
Good morning.
Lisa, where are you joining us from?
I'm down here in Ajijic, Mexico.
Okay. Can you say Ajijic 5 times really quick? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's easier to say than to spell. Spelling it really quick, it's like my dyslexia takes over and it's all just like AJI over and over. Well,
Get used to it.
Yeah, get used to it. Well, Lisa, you're down there in David Hoffmeister's community, right? Can you just give us a little overview of what that is so people can get a context?
Well, I would say we're a mystical community. There's probably about 40 of us, and there's 4 different houses where different people in the community live, and really just practicing forgiveness and coming together with a shared purpose, really just to practice forgiveness. And I have known David since 2002. And believe me, it was a surprise to me that I'd be living in a spiritual community. So, we live it's like paradise here. So is there more that you want to hear about it?
No, that's a good overview. It was really nice coming down there. I think it was in 2018 and kind of experiencing that. It's kind of a beautiful presence there down on a huge lake, that Lake Ajijic, or Lake Chapala. And it's just beautiful. It's kind of a little bit higher altitude, maybe a little bit. So it's not always, it's like a kind of an ideal weather all year round.
Yeah. It's like 80 degrees every day.
Yeah.
Sun and 80 degrees every day.
Don't get used to it.
Well, I am.
Well, okay, you'll have your lessons.
Oh no! You mean don't make an idol of weather? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, climate change. Who knows?
Right.
But it's beautiful for now, and it's interesting to me. This is not where our podcast is going to, but there's a bit of controversy out with a new book about the community, because someone always has bad experiences wherever they are, and there's also things, everyone has their own perceptions and everyone goes through their own experiences. So I've been called quite a few times in the past few days about different things about that community, and my answer is you get what you need there.
That's exactly right. And I'm getting what I need too. I feel for me, this is, I don't know if you're aware, but like down here, especially in Ajijic, it's a huge hub of Course in Miracles students and teachers. And I feel like it's such a humbling journey, because it's like the depth of forgiveness that Jesus is calling us to. And it's continual, and it's pretty obvious even in the Course community how we, it's like pulling us to the depths. within ourselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really deep time actually.
Yeah. It is, you know, like anywhere else, it comes with life and every possible projection and every experience that you can experience to see how you want to choose to see it.
Right, and I guess for me, I feel like it really strengthens my faith in God.
Mm.
Oh, it's like in the storms. I was talking to my friend here before the podcast, and we were talking about the storms, and without the storms in our life, it's like there's no reason, like ye have little faith, Jesus on the boat in the ship, and it's like these opportunities to choose faith
Mm.
instead of this. And I don't know, just I feel like it all keeps deepening me and deepening me in my own relationship with God and to really focus on the faith.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yay. Let's hear all about it.
Yeah. Lisa, why don't you tell us how A Course in Miracles came into your life?
Okay, well, I would say probably in the 90s, I was pretty extremely depressed, and I was a single mom with two kids, and I used to watch Oprah all the time, and Marianne Williamson came on the Oprah show and started talking about God and about forgiveness, and in a whole new way that I had ever heard anybody talk about God, because I lived in Pennsylvania, and I lived in the very fundamental Amish and Mennonites and surrounded by very, you know, Christians, but really I never really felt I had anything in common with them. And so I heard Marianne, and I mean, I was like, it was like an answer to prayer. And so I got Marianne's book, and then she talked about A Course in Miracles in the book. And so I purchased A Course in Miracles, but I actually could not read it for many years. I had it on my bookshelf. And then I actually went into a really dark, dark depression, and I became suicidal. And yeah, and I didn't have any faith in God or anything then. I was really lost. And during this prayer, it was like a real, real deep, deep prayer. It was, I come to the point where I wanted to kill myself. And I was right there on the edge. And I screamed out to God with all of my heart. And I said, "Where the hell are you? If there's a God in heaven, where are you?" And I went into some kind of mystical light experience. And it's this light appeared, and it just started talking to me. And one of the things that it was really, really saying to me was to truly believe. And I had no faith in God. And I felt like I had totally left go of all my faith in the world. And it felt like it was my last ditch effort to, like I could believe in something was God. And I used to have these Mennonite people that used to come and pray with me every Wednesday, Wilmer and Ruth. And they had been bringing the Bible over, trying to pray with me, trying to heal me. And then, so I went downstairs after this and picked up the Bible. And I'm like, oh, I just couldn't even, it was like, oh, I can't figure it out. And then I looked up on my bookshelf, and here I saw it was like the Course in Miracles was like sparkling on my bookshelf. And I grabbed it off of the bookshelf and I opened it up, and I swear it was like birdies just started tweeting. Um, it just totally consumed me. And yeah, so that was in the mid 90s.
Wow. And then how did you make your connection with other people practicing A Course in Miracles?
Well, I actually studied the course for about 8 years on my own. I went through some massive transformation because, I was so like clinically depressed that I mean, I lived in my house and I would close the curtains. I had so much shame and so much guilt and so much unworthiness in my mind. And yeah, I feel like it was about 8 years till I met David, actually. But during that time, there was such a transformation of my mind, just in my relationship with God and accepting my innocence. And, I can't even put it into words. It was like I was falling off into these mystical experiences, and it was totally transforming my whole life. And you know what? Because I had gone to therapists, I had tried to take all kinds of drugs, all kinds of things to try to get out of this depression. But no one ever told me to actually look at my thoughts. And so it felt like Jesus and the Holy Spirit were really pulling me inward into my mind and looking at all of my own attack thoughts in my mind. And also my identification, because I really believed that I was a victim of this world. And also another thing I remember reading, and it was the most surprising thing, that I thought that everybody else was responsible for my happiness. And to find out that I was responsible for my happiness was totally profound for me. I thought, are you kidding me? Because I, had blamed the whole world for my situation. Because, like when I was about 19 years old, I had a sister who had disappeared, and she was found about 8 years later. And her body was found, and she had been murdered and raped. And and they actually found the person that had done this to her. And, the whole situation back there, and, when I was like 19, 20 years old, totally dismantled my family. The whole identity of the family concept was totally shattered. And so was my identity. And, it just totally dismantled everything. Like my mother kind of, really went off. She left go of the mother concept after that. And yeah, so I had lived in just this total victim story of, woe was me. And, this whole thing about my sister being murdered. And also then the man that murdered my sister was put on death row. And so I had so much anger at him for destroying my life. I really blamed him for my life, that if that wouldn't happen, that my life would have gone differently. And there was, yeah, and almost like I made my sister like an idol in my mind. That Yeah, that I used to have this huge picture of her in my living room on my fireplace. Like it was this constant reminder, because she was my total best friend, my total everything. She was my older sister. And I'd become so, self-consumed. And when, I guess for me, one of the greatest things that I found out is, for myself, was that I was forgiven, that really, not just to say that, but to really open up my own mind to really experience my purity and my innocence. And that, to really come into the present moment and experience, the Holy Spirit, and to know that I had a helper, and to know that, my real relationship was with God. And yeah, that the Holy Spirit was eagerly waiting to like remove all these thoughts and beliefs from my mind for me to experience this divine love. And yeah, and the miracle was, because yeah, just feeling just such a connection with God, I felt like I was saved, like completely saved, like in my mind. And then, it was so beautiful because I would go into these mystical experiences for hours, actually just feeling God's love and feeling, you know, my own innocence. And then, I would come out and think, oh my God, that was like the most unbelievable experience that I ever experienced. And I would pray and I'd hear, oh my God, I just want this all the time. I just want to know that you're with me. And basically I heard the spirit say, you need to give it away, give it away, give it away. And it was funny. The first one on my list was Freeman May was the man's name, who had murdered my sister, and to really, extend my own innocence, my own blessing. There's a Course in Miracle. What is it in the beginning, chapter 1? It is the privilege of the forgiven to forgive, and to see that it was like a privilege for me to be able to offer that, not, in this moment, it was just like so divine. And, for me, it was more about this experience, that I was experiencing and praying, for me, before David showed up, this was like, 8 years, but yeah. So then, there came a point, where I was praying for mighty, mighty companions, and David Hoffmeister showed up in 2002.
Oh, wow. So did you ever have to testify or anything in this
I
case?
did, I did. It was really a miracle. I never ever, I felt that I never needed to tell him that or anything. I could cry when I'm telling you this right now.
Mm.
But I never really felt that I ever really needed to tell him that. It was between me and God and him. And it was a miracle because, I realized I wasn't a victim, and that, I don't know, like just feeling his own innocence, like, I don't know, just like it was all part of some plan. And I realized that my sister became, not a symbol of murder and death and victimization, but of freedom for me. It was a miracle that she became a symbol of forgiveness. Oh my God, I can't tell you how elated. And then, there were a couple, journalists that had contacted me, and here they found out that, I had forgiven him, and he was on death row. So, I used to have to go to, keep him on death row, but they found out that I forgave him and they had another trial for him. And actually, I was subpoenaed to go to that trial because they heard that I had forgiven him. And I was supposed to be there with him representing his side, of forgiveness. And so, yeah. So they subpoenaed me there. And, you know, it's just such a miracle because I had to sit outside the courtroom because my family was on the other side, and they sequestered us. And so so they kept me outside of the courtroom because I was there to testify for him. But this miracle, I'm sitting out there and I'm like really just praying, just praying, praying, praying. And it was hours and hours I was sitting out there and I was praying and I just said, Jesus, I just want to know, you didn't know, that you're with me, and, tell me what to say and tell me what to do. And yeah. And I said, please, I just want to know that you're with me. Just please give me a sign. And listen, I opened up my eyes and there's this huge marble wall right outside the courtroom. And it was like almost like one of those ink blot things. It looked like almost like you couldn't see it unless you really looked at it. And here was this perfect image of Jesus in this freaking wall. And I totally like freaked out. And so I'm like, people are walking by me and I'm like, oh my God, do you see this? Do you see this? Whatever. But then, and so I just felt like Jesus was right there with me and just like, just used me. So I got to go into the courtroom and actually, um, Freeman May was there and it was the most beautiful experience that I ever experienced, because I never saw someone so desperately wanting to be forgiven. He was like holding on to the edge of the desk, with his attorney, and the jury was there and they were wanting him to be, put on death row. And then I started just sharing with him, and it was like our eyes locked together, and I felt like I don't know, I felt like I was talking to myself and just sharing with him, how much God loves him, and how much it had changed my life. And I told him I wasn't condoning murder. I said, but I was condoning forgiveness, that I was here to represent that. And, I don't know, just, I felt like we were in this unbelievable, holy experience. Just, it was just me and him. And I don't know, it just felt so pure. And yeah, I felt like it was a holy assignment. And just for that moment, just for that moment for us to experience God's love together. And what was so beautiful was like he was just so desperately looking. He even held his hands on the edge of the desk, just looking at me, like, tell me, who I am. And and then it was funny because the attorney that was representing him said, "Oh, they'll never cross-examine you. So don't worry about that." And then all of a sudden, I said what I had to say, and I really let go of the outcome. I really was not attached whether I felt that that was my only assignment, was just to go there and share with him that. And here I'm going, I'm thinking that I'm getting up, and all of a sudden the prosecution says, we want to cross-examine her. And here they said, "Is it true, Miss Fair, that you study a book called A Course in Miracles?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And they said, "Isn't it true that in A Course in Miracles, that it says that, that everything's an illusion?" And they must have looked into A Course in Miracles. And so anyhow, they started talking about, so, your sister, so basically your sister brought this on herself or something like that. And I said, I don't know. It was the spirit. It was totally the spirit, because I had no idea that they were going to cross-examine me. And all of a sudden, it was like the spirit just poured out of me. And I said, well, because I was a nurse, I had been a nurse. And I said, well, as a nurse, I said, I just know that everyone interprets everything completely differently. And all of a sudden, they like slammed the thing and said, whatever. They wanted to stop me from speaking. And it was so funny because I was like just sharing whatever. And then the judge, he says, sustain. He said, I want to hear what she has to say. I want to hear what she's expressing here. And I don't know, the spirit just poured out of me, and just talked about, that this was I'm here to represent Jesus Christ. I'm here to represent the truth of God, and the innocence. And doesn't matter if it's A Course in Miracles or it's a Bible or whatever it is, that it was just, yeah, just representing the truth. And so I don't know I have to say, it was the most beautiful gift. Jesus, I feel the Spirit gives us so many beautiful gifts to be able to extend this, not for anyone else, but for ourselves. I feel like that, that was the beginning of, I feel like that's the ultimate experience, is my own innocence. I've never experienced anything in this life that offers me, anything else. It's like that's my connection with my source. And so, anyhow, do you want me to continue on with this story?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have questions. I always do, but
Okay,
please
well,
keep going.
listen, I want to tell you what happened. It's a miracle, because it's a total miracle, because I really didn't even, have an attachment to what happened. So, whatever, at that, court hearing, they ended up, convicting him again, and he got the death sentence, da, 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 da. Well, about 3 years later, my daughter calls me up and she says, "Oh my God, you got to look at the front page of the paper." She said, "It's on the front page of the paper. They just freed Freeman May." And they said, or not freedom, they took him off of death row because they deemed him insane because he believes he's innocent. And they said they had five psychologists examine him, and he is convinced he's innocent. And so they deemed him mentally insane, and so they couldn't convict him because they couldn't convict someone that they deemed insane. So now he's serving life, uh, you know, a life sentence. So he was actually taken off of the death row.
Wow. Even his
Uh,
name is like his name is may
yeah.
be a free man.
Listen,
Yeah.
I
I
tell
mean,
you, it's unbelievable, really.
both names,
Yeah.
Lisa Fair and Freeman May. He may be free.
Listen, I swear to God, listen,
Yeah, I mean, the names are very mythic in this. It's really fantastic.
it's God. And I felt like, because that's all it's about, like that's all it's about for me. That's all, I feel like today, even, it's about faith in
Um,
God. You
Lisa, I have a couple of questions. One, just because I didn't hear you when you said it, how long was your sister missing for?
She was missing for 8 years.
So starting what age to what age for you?
Well, when I was 19. So we had lived together. She was my idol, she really was. She's my older sister.
Yeah.
And, she was my love of my life, really. And then basically, it was on my mother's birthday too. She just disappeared. We were going to meet my mom, and she went to the mall and she just never came home. We could not find her. So it
And
drove.
she was what age at the time?
What? I
And
was
what age was she at the time?
21. She was 21.
So she was 21 and you were how old?
19.
Ah, and then she was missing for the next 8 years.
8 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was pretty intense. I mean, because you don't know what happens. I mean, I feel like when we found her, it was a miracle. And my mom really, my mom never got over it. It was really,
that,
but it
which
was
is my
part of
next
the plan.
question.
What?
My next question is how did your family handle
Not
you being on the other side of this with forgiveness while they were out to I'm assuming out to convict him yet again to death row.
Well, my family and me had been estranged. That was the whole thing. Like after my sister disappeared, my mom kind of lost it. And she moved away and didn't tell the rest of the family where she was. And, her and my stepfather moved away. My mom wanted nothing to do with family. She never celebrated another Christmas, another anything. So it's a total dismantling. And for me, forgiving him was really letting go finally of even the family concept for me. I had to let go, because I had some hope maybe we would all get back together someday, but it never happened. And I just had to really forgive, even that whole thing, but my family definitely was not for it. I mean, my mom told me, me and my mom really, after all that Oni ever had, even before she died, maybe one real joining. And she said, she just wishes that she would be able to forgive, but she was never able to do that. And, but we were already estranged.
Mhm.
So,
Do you have any other siblings?
I had some half siblings, but we were never close.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it totally dismantled the whole family.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was kind of, and that's where I went into the deep, dark depression because I really felt all alone and, totally victim, of, no family. But I don't know, when I found the course, what I realized, but it was the most beautiful thing because I didn't feel that I had any close relationship. And in the course, it was telling me that God was my one real relationship and that I don't know, like I just put all my heart into it, that's the only real relationship. And I want to feel that. I want to know that. And it was by experiencing his love and letting go of the past and opening up to a new and real experience. And, it felt like, I was saved and like it just became my lifeline, like God, and today, I mean, it's even today, my put all my faith in God, and put all my faith in practicing forgiveness and devoting my life to this and just such a transformation. I mean, people, that knew me back when this was all going on, I was such a mess. I was dark, depressed, crying all the time. I just played my sad story all the time. And it's so beautiful because even the people that used to know me back then, they say I'm totally a different person. It just totally transformed me, into this beautiful, I don't know, just I feel like it's made me a miracle worker and restored me completely to my source.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Maybe.
I thank you for letting me share this.
Oh, of course. No, it's such an incredible story. I don't know why my mind is still stuck on a couple of details of it, but it's the 8 years. Um so she wasn't found for 8 years, and those are the 8 years that you fell into a darkness, let's say, right?
Well, no, I was in a darkness till I was 35.
Ah, okay. And so he was found the first time 8 years later, or she was found, and then he was convicted, and then you had more. The forgiveness didn't happen until after that.
Yeah. Yes. Well, because the thing was when me and my mom were estranged. She didn't want anything to do with the family. And at that time, she still lived in Pennsylvania. And when they found her body, I was so elated. I was so glad it was over. I couldn't believe it, because my mom actually believed that, which I have, heard about this happens. My mom thought that I had something to do with it or that
Oh,
because I was living with her. So, and it just is what the mind does. And so my mom thought I knew something and, whatever. So when we found her, it was such anguish, not knowing. And it was interesting. My mom, when they found her, the police called us in and they had, her belongings and my mom had been there first. I didn't know this. And then they had called me to come in and, identify. Well, they wanted to hear the whole story. And then they asked me what she was wearing and everything. And then they showed me, her belongings, and I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. There her ring was. And I was like, oh my God, that like we found her. So as soon as I was done there, I rushed to my mom's house to tell her, oh my God, when they found her, and my mom became enraged. And it was funny because the detective said that she was just there and saw all these things and said it wasn't her. So it was like the protective mechanism in my mother's mind, I guess, denying it. But I was like elated because I thought we would be free then, and that we would be able to be a family again. And, but my mom was not, so my mom just totally, yeah, didn't want to accept that.
and your mother, did your mother accept that it was her at any point?
Finally, she did, yes. Because,
Oh,
well, well, what they did then, because see, they had just found the body, but then they sent my sister's bones and things to Washington, D.C. and had some of her, dental things. So the dental records, verified that it was her.
mm, boy, what a journey. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very touched too that, your perspective that you weren't there to free him or try and get him off the hook. You were there to forgive him.
Yeah. And I felt like it was an honor that I don't know, like I had left to go in my mind. And I felt like it was it. And, it's funny because like the FBI came searching for me at the Peace House in Cincinnati with David, to, subpoena me. And I don't know, I feel like it was like, I don't know, an honor for me in some way, but not for him, for me. I don't know, to finally, because I feel like, without him at that depth, because I had been in such darkness for so long. And without me being able to release, I would have never been able to forgive him. And I don't know, and forgive myself because I became a murderer. That's what I could see. Like I was the murderer. I wanted him dead. And just, I don't know, just I feel like it's such a symbol of God to me, and for me, that's not just with him, it's with everyone. It's for everyone. It's for all of us. It extends all the time, everywhere. Like, that's what that is my relationship with God. It's not about people or, it's about the thoughts that I keep in my own mind and keep my own altar clean so that I can be in that experience because it's an experience. I feel God's present in my mind. It's like I can feel when I have attack thoughts. I can feel when the storm moves in. And it's like, no, put my mind in my faith in my heart, faith in God, what is real, what is true, and that commitment. And it's like it's not going to be it's not when you're in your comfort zone, that's for sure.
Right. Right. Well, you just answered Matt's next question.
Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know, when the storm moves in, we talk about the ego storm, or, some people say the ego backlash. Lisa, when that does happen, do you have anything that you do to practically help yourself get back into a God-centered state so you can move, allow that up and move through it and back and get back into a holy instant?
Well, I feel like all the storms that I've ever faced in my life, I don't know, really deep, I feel like they're all for me. So that it pulls me into prayer and pulls me into silence and gets me really present with what I believe. And, just, I don't know, just really the invitation, like it's a continual prayer. What is real? What is true? And where is my faith? Like, Jesus is on the ship, in the huge storm, and the waves are, splashing everywhere and the thunder. It's like, is our mind going to be on the storm? And it's like Jesus is putting his hand out to us and saying, ye of little faith, where's your faith? And it's not, and he's like restoring our faith. Even he said, it is your faith alone that heals you. And so it's like putting my focus on the faith in my heart and really knowing that the devotion is to God and like hold on tight. Yeah, I don't know. And it's like somehow it awakens something in me, like it lights my heart. Then it's like, then I love the way that that feels. And then I keep my focus on that feeling that it's like a light in my heart. And it's almost like something happens, like the storm disappears and the light becomes, I feel like that is what I want. I want to feel that connection to God, especially in the storms.
Yeah.
I have a question about that too. It brings up, we walk such a fine line in this practice. And I wonder, I've seen people who have that experience and for lack of a better description, kind of enjoy it so much, that breakthrough, that they seem to attract storms in order to get to that point, instead of just saying, actually, I can live in that place without the storms to remind me. And it may just be for some, I mean, so many paths are so different. So the ones who I've seen, it may just be a step along the way to do that. But I feel like there's often a catch in that with some people. And I wondered how you felt about that.
I never heard that before.
Mm.
Well, I feel like whatever, my journey has been, that's all that I know. I mean, it's been I've had many storms. I don't know. I feel like it's really deep in my relationship with God. I don't
Mhm.
know. It keeps me in a continual prayer.
Yeah. I
Uh,
mean, as I say, everyone comes to it in their own way. And I was just
Mm.
curious if you noticed that at all of like, wait, I'm having a lot of storms because I really want my my quiet.
yeah.
Well, I can tell you truthfully, I do. I'm pretty much, in quiet and prayer. I do a lot of writing.
Yeah.
I like to write. And so I feel like the last several years of my life, when we were talking about the menopause thing, but it's almost like I've come into some still waters, very
Mhm.
still and calm waters.
Mm.
And
I just want
even
to say the menopause thing was not something we're referring to in this podcast. It
Yeah,
was offline.
before.
So people don't rewind, try and find the menopause thing. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I hear that. And, I have noticed for me uh, that there are times in my life where I've loved drama so much specifically because when it get too big, I would snap into truth. And so it was almost a tool for me. I'm speaking of myself as one of the people who I just referred to. Um, and then realized, I don't need the drama to get there.
Yeah.
I feel like my life before the course was a lot of drama. Like,
Yes. Oh my God, was high
like
drama. You
no
kidding?
drama.
Mythic high drama.
Oh my God, victim, boom, blame.
Uh,
Oh, it was all the time. That's what the thing was. I felt like I was in I was in a nightmare,
yeah.
that I
And
couldn't get out of. Like, I get down and get back up.
yeah,
That's
well, that's part of the Lisa affair. It was your own affair. It has many meanings, that affair.
and
And
it's
you were
about being
on your
free.
own roller coaster.
Freeman May, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like this freedom that Jesus is offering us. And, it's just the mind training. That's
Yeah.
why I feel that I do live in community. It's not because of it's special or anything like that. It's because I need the help. We're here as mighty companions, remembering the truth together. And there's a force in that. Where two or more gathered, there I am. And that's what I want to remember. That's what my life, I want to remember God, whatever that means, remember the present moment, remember the holy instant, remember the joy. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I want.
Love that.
Lisa, I know there's always a lot of people practicing forgiveness down there, and you've witnessed a
Down
lot of
there.
down there in Mexico, and and you know sometimes new Course in Miracles students will have the feeling, as I did, like I must be practicing this wrong because as I start, things seem to be getting worse. And like the things I used to enjoy doing, I don't enjoy doing anymore. There's these crazy emotions coming up, and these emotional storms, and all these things are happening that didn't appear to happen in the same way before. Maybe I projected them or something else. I was managing them some other way. Can you just talk a little bit about any kind of themes you see on along that journey when course students you see them working on it and kind of like this darkness coming up or this guilt coming up for release and how that's managed and what you witness?
Yeah, well, especially living in spiritual community, a lot of people say, wow, I feel worse than I ever felt my whole life. Because we're getting present. We're getting present. We don't have all these distractions, you know, uh, especially with us being so focused here, it's very present and being very honest and being able to expose the ego. Um, so I do feel like the minute you get on the path, it's like, be careful what you ask for, it's really having to face the darkness. So it does, I always think, it's actually a sign that you're in the right direction. If you have these emotions and these fears and these guilt coming up, it's really coming up so that it can be healed, so that we can, invite the Holy Spirit into our minds. And, it's part of the journey, the constant praying and listening and following. But, for us, one of the things, and this is, for me, what I experienced, we practice no private thoughts and no people pleasing in our community. And it's a profound experience, it's profound in terms of, it's like bringing the darkness to the light, and then also being surrounded with those who want the miracle along with you, choosing the miracle, questioning it together. And there's a real power in that when your goal is a miracle. um so yeah, did I answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and that was what the thing was with David. When I met him, I had been studying, and then, and having my own miracles. I ended up, starting my own company. It was just miracles, miracles, miracles. The company was called Abundant Nursing. It was just a miracle. And I met David, and this was a whole new concept to me to, practice no private thoughts and no people pleasing. And I would just like practice it with them and just say whatever I was saying. And there was an experience. It was like another kind of relationship that I had never experienced before, because I could feel that our minds were joining in a real purity, and like whatever I would say to him, he wasn't believing at all. It was like real true empathy. He really, and so I was experiencing like really a speed up actually in my own mind of letting go of the beliefs, because I didn't have anyone joining me in the illusions. And I loved it. It was like, oh, I want to just keep exposing, so that I could heal these thoughts and these beliefs, and someone being able to hold the space for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And not an experience that everybody has where like you can release your private thoughts and it's like, oh, okay, I don't believe those, but thanks for sharing them. And
Listen, David, that was what I couldn't believe. Like I would say things to him, and and not even just not pretending. I could really experience that it didn't affect him at all. Like whatever I was saying, almost like, how about this if I share this, it was like he was totally in the space of holding the truth for me always. It was a real miracle. And I thought, oh my God, I could really feel my own healing.
yeah,
And now, for me, that's not anything that I even, I feel like the relationships that I have now are, just honest. They're honest. And there's not all this projection and all of this stuff that I used to go through anymore. It's this real inward journey for me now.
Mhm.
And, and I feel like that's really kind of like the relationship, even here in the community. For me, it's an inward thing, and it's not almost the holy relationship. Even my relationship with David has changed really dramatically, which is so beautiful, because almost like now it's almost like whatever the healing that was needed between me and him, it's almost like it's transferred into this vertical thing now, where it's not, almost like I don't even really need him like I used to in the past. It's like we come together in our sameness, in our own relationship with God together. It's like that solidness together.
beautiful.
There it is.
There it
You
is.
know, that's the growth.
Yeah, and it's really beautiful, because it's like, what's so beautiful is that we both want, for all of us, we all want each other to be happy. We want each other to be happy. And we also know that our happiness comes from ourselves, not with other people or with anything, but in our own inward relationship with God. And it's like, that's what we celebrated. And that's what our celebration is. That's why we live together more in our like, and then we come together in projects or whatever. But, really it's this, I spend a lot of time in quiet, in my own juiciness, and then I come out and I get to share it with everyone or whatever. And then I go back into my juiciness. And,
Hmm.
it's kind of just the way my life is now.
Yeah.
Well, the juiciness leads us to our next question. What is your favorite comfort food, Lisa?
It's so funny. I love French fries. That's what I love. And I love to go, down here is so fun, because there's a million restaurants down in here, and you get every day you can choose a different restaurant. But I feel like for me, it's just some good old fashioned French fries.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. When they're just
Any
right.
cut, thin
What?
cut, any kind of cut, thin cut, thick cut.
Waffle cut.
Right,
No, straight cut, straight cut
straight
Okay.
cut.
with just salt. I don't like anything else on it.
Yeah, the thinner the better, or
Oh no, I like them a little thicker. No, but I don't like steak fries. I like just regular fries. That's the beautiful thing. What's so beautiful is that you put the kingdom of heaven first, and all things are added, and even your French fries are added to you. It's so beautiful because it's like Jesus. It's like the more and more you go into this inward, direct experience, the less and less you need. My needs are really, really simple. If you would look in my refrigerator, there's hardly anything in there. It's like less and less and less and less. You don't need all this. I'd rather stay at home too, and not go out because it's like down here, there's so many, ways to be distracted.
Yeah.
And, I just am so grateful that my life has, really come into full, you know, yeah, in my devotion. It really reflects my devotion with God.
Mhm. Well,
Um,
Lisa, this was such a great podcast. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your miracle voice. Is there anywhere you want to point listeners to follow you or connect with you in any way?
Well, I can give my email address if anybody wants to contact me. My email address, you're going to love this one, Tam. Now I am free 111 at yahoo.com.
I love it. I do.
Well done. Well,
Okay, thank you so much. It's such an honor.
you.
Thank you.
thank you, Lisa. Take care.
Okay. Many blessings.
Thanks so much for listening today. Please subscribe to Miracle Voices by hitting the subscribe button on your podcast app. If you are enjoying these conversations, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you use. And lastly, please visit us at miraclevoices.org and join our newsletter so we can stay connected. Until the next podcast, I want to leave you with my favorite course quote: "When you want only love, you will see nothing else."